and welcome back to another financial review. Let's jump right into TikTok's brilliant ideas of how to become rich.
Unethical but legal ways to make money, part 79. Now, since this method requires two people, make sure to tag your friend who will help you with this. First, you will both rent a white van and drive around town looking for homeless people. Whenever you see a homeless man in the street, you will stop the car and tell him, "We are doing a challenge. If you can win a boxing fight, you will get a week at a hotel for free." Now, since this homeless man has no place to stay and also has nothing going around his day, he will definitely agree and hop on the van. You will repeat this 16 times until you have a group of 16 homeless men sitting in a white van. After that, your friend will drive you to a public park. Then you will all hop off the van and start putting the homeless in groups of twos. Now your friend will hold the camera and film all this because you will be live streaming this boxing event on your Twitch channel. Now every winner of each group will face the other one, so you are left with one homeless winner. Since you are live streaming all this, you will get thousands of views and many Twitch donations, which will result in thousands of dollars. But after you return home, you will re-upload the stream VOD on your YouTube channel and get more thousands of dollars from YouTube ad revenue. That way, you will become rich by using homeless people.
Bro, leave the society alone.
Make sure you like and follow to get more.
Well, I'm not 100% sure if this is actual content that is meant to be serious or if this is satire that's just making fun of the idea. So let's assume it is not satire just for the sake of me reviewing it. Of course, it's a bad idea. You know that by now. But the question is, why would you even follow that trend? So for starters, Twitch, although it is quite a cesspool in a sense on that on their live category where you can upload quite a bit, violence is against the term of service. So you potentially find yourself only with platforms like Kick, who have a much lower threshold for barely anything goes. So let's assume you can pull that off. And let's assume you can make it viral in the first instance of it and cover the costs. Let's also assume you are letting all of the homeless people sign waivers. And let's assume that you do have good legal assistance, that they can't claim duress because after they have been losing, they could still go to a pro bono attorney and say that they had been bodily injured and under duress been forced to sign a contract. Because they were in a situation of need and they saw that as their only escape. Let's assume all of that does not bother you. Then there is still a bit of a moral implication where after you are gaining exposure on Kick or Twitch, and after you're gaining donations, I don't know who would donate for that, but that's a different story. You're then also uploading it to YouTube, where you're likely going to be demonetized for stupid content to begin with. And you are likely going to end up in legal trouble. But even if all of that flawlessly works, I'm questioning the legitimacy of the business model, not even the moral implication, but the legitimacy, because you would need to front that with the cost for the van. I assume that you're truthfully offering 1 week of free hotel stay for the winner, which would be a multi-$1,000 expense. You're having opportunity costs as in your time that you're investing, and you would need a camera and other equipment. So you can't just pull that off without investment. So let's assume you're spending 10 grand on all of that to make the event work. I do have my doubts that a no-name channel without any recognition would be able to blow up with that and would make the money on the first video or even the first few events. And that next question is, how sustainable is that sort of content? Because there will be shocker value the first time, but I don't think that it will work many times. Even quote unquote the professional events where Twitch streamers are beating their heads in are starting to fall off, because the idea that two people that you see online are hitting each other in the head is just becoming repetitive at this point, and interest in it is fading. Similarly to that, I would assume that the bare knuckle fight of homeless people is interesting in the first iteration, but will not be necessarily interesting in following iterations. Anyways, it's a bad idea. It's obvious. I'm not even sure if it is serious. All right, after that video, I think we need some more motivation. Let's dive into how to get rich quick.
I couldn't pay the rent. At 28, I was a millionaire. And at 32, I bought a Bugatti because I was worth $20 million. That's how quickly you can get rich with a plan. If you don't have a plan, all you have is a dream. So let me say this to you. If your plan to get rich, your plan is longer than 3 years, it's a dream. It's a fantasy. It's a hope. If you're going to sit around and pray for a miracle, that's not a plan. None of that is a plan. You need a plan to make money today because things are happening faster and faster. Who knows what's going to happen next week? You need money now.
That is the pinnacle of bad advice, culminated in a 30 seconds. It's the embodiment of everything that's wrong with social media and the financial advice here. The guy claims to be broke at 24, then became a millionaire at 28, and then at 32 was worth 20 million. So whilst it is possible that there are avenues where this story could happen, it is very unlikely that it happens. And he, of course, didn't go into any specifics of how he had done it. I think the most telling part of the video that annoys me is if your plan is longer than 3 years, then it is not a plan, then it is barely a dream and it will not manifest. Advice couldn't be much more wrong than that. You could almost take everything that he had said and turn it around, and then the video would be real. At 24, I had a little bit of money, and then I lost most of it to 28, and at 32, I am broke and therefore are now making videos on social media. If you are wanting to make money, you should have a plan that lasts longer than 3 years. Things are moving faster, but you should see underlying trends and you should invest in yourself with knowledge and something substantial that you can monetize over a longer period of time. You need to work diligently and hard, and there is no fast way of money. That would have been 30 seconds well spent and potentially would have been kind of the truth as opposed to what we're hearing. But that is the fun or the problem of social media. Everybody can just go on and yap a little bit, and then people are watching it and are believing into it. And the comments here are just crazy. At 30, I was broke. 31, I started my business. Now 33, and I'm a multi-millionaire. And that is just one of the comments that accidentally pops up on this video and is suggesting that it happened to them as well. It's crazy, but I do understand that this is the target audience for that is young, impressionable, 15 years old people, and people who have lived through actual life experience and are knowledgeable would decipher this for what it is: utter crap and just lies and deception. Okay, let's watch the last one, just so that we can get our daily dose of TikTok finance.
Yo, if I went flat broke tomorrow and I had to get back to 10K a month as fast as I possibly could, this is exactly what I would do. Let's pretend that I also have a basic level knowledge around copywriting, which is what a normal person could get in like 2-3 weeks. First thing I would do is find a remote copywriting job on LinkedIn or Indeed or something like that. Even for a junior position right off the bat, I could probably get something paying me $50K a year. So I'm already back to $4,200 a month. I could get that in like a week. Because the knowledge of copywriting will allow you to write a better cover letter and a better pitch to whoever's hiring you, I'm gonna get that job super quick. As soon as I have that job, I'm gonna go to Upwork and just see if I can send as many proposals as possible to try and get a couple of gigs that equal about $1,000 a month. So now I should be up to $5,500 a month in income. Now that I have a little bit of income and I'm not starving anymore, I'm gonna just send as many DMs and cold emails as I possibly can so I can get a real paying client on retainer. And I know if I hit up like 300 business owners, I know for a fact that I'm gonna get 2 clients paying me $2,500 a month if I offer them the right thing. Within literally 6 weeks, I'd be back up to 10K a month. And I'd be thanking my lucky stars that I knew copywriting because it allowed all this to happen.
Well, where should I start? There is no job that requires 2 weeks of barely reading into it and then becoming as good as you need to be in order to demand those types of charges. Copywriting is no exception in that. Secondly, many of the jobs on LinkedIn for copywriting are freelancer jobs, so you wouldn't get any base salary. So that in itself is already incorrect. And getting a job within a few weeks or even less than that is also potentially not correct. So the idea that you would simply apply and you're immediately getting that without any references whatsoever beforehand is preposterous, and that's not how the job market would work. But let's assume he scores a freelancer position somewhere, to then upscale that and get your clients, and suggesting that you would send DMs, which is only happening on Instagram or TikTok, is again quite laughable, because it suggests that you are targeting an audience that uses this platform here and needs copywriting services, where the vast majority of people that need copywriting services are businesses that do not use those platforms, and particularly not use these platforms for business inquiries. What TikTokers, I think, do not understand is that most of the business world outside of TikTok is not using TikTok DMs in order to do business deals. The vast majority of them are still being done via email or via means of quote unquote more serious conversation like LinkedIn networking or just personal network. So him cold calling 30, 40, or even 100 different outlets and offering services, first of all, depending on his skill, would only attract a few responses, and then unless he is super competitive on price or has a product offering that is exceptionally well, they wouldn't even mitigate over to him or use his services on a long-term basis. Why would they? And that again comes back to, you cannot learn a trade in 2 weeks and then pretend that after 2 weeks you're just going to hit up business after business after business, now trying to sell them something and then build up a credibility that way. Whilst in a long term that may be work if you're actually good and if you're actually learning that and you're using Upscale or Fiverr or whatever platform you want to use in order to sell your services, you will need hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of successful reviews in order to actually get a customer base. And to obtain a customer base with a retainer, where someone is paying you $2,500 a month, also requires you to relatively steadily work for them and do an excellent job. So what he is saying, there is like this small element of truth in it that you can do it, but he's selling it as a speed running course, almost like, how would I get back to that and that level if I would have lost my job right now? It's almost like, the funny part about that, it's almost like a surgeon coming up on TikTok and saying, if I would be fired from my clinic, not for medical malconduct, but just if my clinic closes today, how would I get back to 10K a month quickest? Well, turns out I can just apply to other jobs and I am a surgeon somewhere else, and therefore I make the same amount of money. That would conveniently leave out that you need a 10 plus years education, actually need to be good at what you're doing. And he's making it sound like everybody could follow that path and therefore earn 10K a month. The reality is the very small amount of people can do it, and it requires a level of excellency that also requires many, many years of practice or training or education. And it is funny that they always leave out that part. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the financial advice today, and see you in the next episode.